somebody doesn't like me talking. I just got shut down and had to start another one. I'm going to go grab my popcorn while you guys are all trying to find this live. Do I have Venmo? Asks Shannon. Actually, I just downloaded it the other day. I've never had it before, but somebody else asked me if I had Venmo. So I do have it now, Shannon. Heather, I don't know. All of a sudden it just stopped. Ooh, somebody doesn't like me talking about stuff. So anybody who had comments that I hadn't gotten to, now I haven't seen them since the video stopped. So I apologize for that. And so this is a new laptop, and it still did that to me. God damn it. Hi, Jeff. It just stopped for me. No, Rebecca, I did not see your answer. Oh, and Jeff, people wanted me to take the tube off. So now that you're watching. Cherry says, Ronnie Reed, 120-day reprieve on execution. Oh, that's awesome. Jeff says, technology hates you. Oh. Heather says, I told you not to stop helping peeps. It's your purpose. Well, and that was, I went out to lunch with a friend of mine. We were at a Chinese buffet. And so I'm talking to her about all this drama in my life and that I need to make some big changes. I need to do something. And so I got a fortune cookie. And I can't remember, what did the fortune cookie say? Here, over on this page, I can go, because I post the picture on my personal. It says, you are a leader. Others soon will need your inspiration. And so I was just laughing with her, too, because I'm like, I'm talking about stopping doing this stuff, and then that's what it says. Oh, sorry, Rebecca. Yeah. I don't know why that I get cut off. So now is that Wi-Fi? I don't know. It sucks. Natalie says, thanks for the backstory. Wow, just wow. Be careful when you go up there. You know they'll have been pulling night shifts, making no trespassing signs, and have spies placed all up and down Cuss Road. Be careful. Yeah, I know. That's why I won't say the exact day I'm going to go. So maybe tomorrow. You never know. Heather says, I also told you we need MAM gossip shirts. Jeff, what are you thumbs downing? Jeff would be the one. So you see the Jeff Tarrant right there. That's my Jeff. Yep, my Jeff. So if you guys want anything printed or anything, Jeff is who you contact. Anne says, do you remember when you were rewatching Making a Murderer and they kept getting you switched off? Yeah, that was weird. Callie says, what's going on with Kent? Nothing. I haven't heard anything on Kent in a while. Whoops. So it's just waiting. Oh, and sorry, people. I'm rude as fuck that I'm going to be eating with popcorn or talking with popcorn in my mouth now. Hi, Christina. Elizabeth says, when you get to the truth, the gremlins shut you down. Christina says, that's my cat. Sorry, I haven't been around. Got a lot going on. No worries. Yeah, we all have real lives that sometimes interfere with our obsession with the Stephen Avery case. Anne says, we know you're there, nasty peeping Toms. Shannon says, I want to help a sister out. What is your Venmo? I didn't hear if you responded. I believe I'm Venmo. It's just I'm Jax West. And the picture of Jax West is I'm wearing a purple like snow mask thing, and you only kind of see my eyes. Because somebody just I do some volunteering, and the person who I was volunteering with on Tuesday, she wanted something printed by Jeff, and so I had brought it to her, and so she wanted to pay me, and she's like, "You have Venmo?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." So that was my first experience with it. So I had to download Venmo so she could pay me for Jeff's printing. Aaron says, what was Brendan and Steven's relationship like prior to October 31? In his confession, I read he was scared of Steven. I thought the two of them hanging out by a bonfire was a regular occurrence. Don't know why I thought that, just my impression. Steven and Brendan got along. They would spend some time together, like out at the bonfire, but it wasn't a really close relationship. Steven's pretty bossy. So I think the boys typically didn't want to be around Steven because Steven thought of the boys as being lazy and they should be doing more work. And oh my God, thank you, Shannon. I just got email. And I am eating popcorn. And I had Chinese buffet today because my girlfriend treated me to lunch. Bobby was selling drugs and car parts. And so Steven was always pissed off at that kid. But I think Brendan was like his little buddy when they would be together, but it wasn't anything regular. I'm sure Brendan was scared of him because, like I said, Steven is bossy. He's loud and he's bossy. You know, he's always telling people what to do, even throughout prison. You know, Steven told me he is the one to this day that runs the salvage yard. He's the one that tells them to do this, that, or the other. So, Steven's boss. Julie says, did you hear about Oreo? Oh, sorry, and I'm not laughing at that. I see Jeff's comment underneath you. Yeah, I talked about it in the first video that just got cut off. And I talked to Paul about it. And the thing that I said in the first video that I'll say here again is Melissa doesn't know, and she won't know until Sunday. So if anybody reaches, you know, if anybody emails Melissa or not email, mails her, I wouldn't think she would get it that fast anyway because their mail system is horrible. But I've asked people, please don't say anything to Melissa until you know Melissa. You know, I'll let you know when Melissa has been told. And then I'll ask everybody to please send her a card, you know, expressing your condolences. This is going to hit her pretty hard. And I was laughing at Jeff saying black tubes matter because Jeff would prefer me to talk to you all in that tunnel thing that he put on there. And Carrie saying hi to Jeff. Heather says, I can smell your popcorn through my screen. Yeah, it's the white cheddar smart food. It is my favorite. But it's also weird eating it right now because I've got a candle thing burning and it's a cinnamon, you know, and I know you're not supposed to have some candle going that's a flavor, you know, or a scent while you're eating because it messes with the taste of your food. But I'm going to eat the popcorn regardless because I love it. Natalie says, do you still have the live you mentioned that you did with Barb and Scott? Where was it posted? Would be interesting to see the dynamic. No. That was posted in Barb's group. And it was deleted when it was done because Barb was afraid because she knew press would be in there. And she didn't want press having access to it. So it was supposed to be a special thing just for the supporters that were in there. So a thing that I took away from that was my first time meeting Pete Dassey. And I just felt horrible for him. I talked to him a little bit before we went live, and he was petrified of going live because he's also, you can tell he's also of low IQ. And I know now too that Barb takes Brendan away from him on a whim whenever she feels like it. So he has to constantly jump through Barb hoops or he'll be cut off from Brendan. So he's so afraid of saying or doing anything that's going to upset her. And so he was a nervous wreck. And so I was trying to make sure, because the way we worked that is Jeff was working the camera. I was sitting on a couch like across from them, as you know, so I'm not on camera. The camera was focused on the three of them. And then I also had like my phone since we were live, so I could read people's questions and comments. And so I was making sure that when I talked to Pete, I was looking him in the eyes and I was trying to phrase things in a way to, you know, I was really trying to make him comfortable. And of course, too, if there was anything shitty that got asked, I'm not going to ask that. You know, you skip over that. So Pete really misses Brendan at that thing. And they had a really strong bond with wrestling. That's where Brendan gets his love of wrestling. And so he misses wrestling with Brendan. He misses watching wrestling and all that. So and it was Barb sat on the couch in between Pete and Scott. Rebecca says, basically, no, didn't think you were guilty. There was so much drama going on that was not really believable. Each told the same story slightly differently. I recall how Jeff was left with a debt. Oh, yeah, and Jeff is... they did things to him like... they went to... what is it? The review thing where you can review businesses. I can't remember what it is, but they went to his page on there and gave him bad reviews and such. Trying to target his business, you know, making up lies and such. That was a crazy time. Sherry asks what Kent is jailed for. Kent Pellegrini is another case that I advocate for. His case is with Kathleen's office, but Kathleen is not the lawyer who argues his case. That is her partner, Doug, that does Kent's case. Kent's in prison for raping his wife. Really sordid, crazy tale. That chick is a nut job. And it's just horrible. But, you know, most people don't hear about Kent's case because they're looking, you know, people want that. Oh, you scared me. Shut up. They want murder. And there's no murder on that. He's, you know, and he and his wife, it's not like me and my husband who've been separated for 6 years. They were married as far as Kent knew, you know, living together and everything. And she's a known drunk, bad drunk, who doesn't even remember the actual sex, but then cries rape. Ruins Kent's life. Heather says, what is Kayla's relationship now with Carla after she accused her of stealing Ma's money earlier this year? I don't know, since I'm not up on all of that. I think Kayla is currently in the doghouse with the family. I know Stephen had told me that he had hired Kayla to be Dolores's caretaker. and that Stephen was actually paying Kayla a wage to do it. Kayla is the only one that cares about Dolores. And money allegedly was missing from Dolores's trailer, and they accused Kayla of doing it, when actually I believe the person who stole it is Carla's brother Chris. At least that's what Stephen had told me, that it was Chris. Carla's brother Chris lives at the salvage yard. He lives in the trailer that's on the other side of the office with his girlfriend. Making a Murderer 2, Thomas, has been out for a year. If you're asking when Making a Murderer 3 will be out, that's not known. That hasn't been filmed or anything. So no idea when the next Making a Murderer will come out. Rebecca says, used to love watching your lives at your home, at Salvage Yard, etc. Didn't know this page existed until fairly recently. Well, glad you found us, Rebecca. Shannon says, okay, I sent you a little snack money on Venmo. Now says you're welcome. Yeah, thank you very much. And I feel very weird about that. Let me tell you, because I'm accused of stealing money and using this to try and get money out of people. So now Shannon's donating money and people are going to say, see, she did this for money. Cherry says, what's sad about those lives with Barb when asked memories or what Brendan's fave things were, they didn't know. I don't know. Brendan is so lost. I believe Barb loves Brendan. She does. She loves all of her kids. I don't begrudge her that at all. I'm just finding more and more with the advocating that I do. I mean, maybe I just don't know because I don't have a loved one in prison. So maybe I don't know what it, so I don't know what it's like. But I just find that the families really don't make the person who's in prison a priority. So like Barb will not go visit Brendan for all of deer hunting season because I got to go hunt. Really? But he's in prison. You can't go one day? Give him one visit? Deer hunting. I realize everybody's got to live their life too. I'm not saying you have to put yourself in some kind of jail because they're in jail. You have to live your life. But they need to be a priority. So you can't go, oh, well, it's Thanksgiving, so we have to have our Thanksgiving dinner and we're not doing this visit. Why can't you go and spend that time in the prison? You can eat a turkey dinner and you don't have to have it on the final Thursday of November. You can do it anytime. Who cares? So, I don't know. Margaret, there's never been anything official on Making a Murderer Part 3. But with everything that keeps happening in this case, there's gonna be. Just when. Nana says, never any talk or news and gossip about Brendan. It's always about Stephen. Yeah. Well, the good thing for Brendan is he was moved a while ago. He was moved to the different prison that he's in Oshkosh now. And it's a better prison where he's got more opportunities. So, at least he's got that. And I believe it's closer for his family to drive. Julie says, in the last live that cut off, I mentioned that a supporter, Ziggy, was found murdered in her home. Police feel it was murder-suicide. Her adult son was also found dead and assumed he may have killed his mom. His cause of death is pending toxicology report, and he didn't seem to have any physical injuries. Ziggy suffered blunt force trauma to her head. She was involved in many true crime groups and pages and a fierce advocate for Stephen and Brendan. May she rest in peace. Yeah, Julie, one of the moderators was just talking about that today in our group message. She told me that Ziggy was on YouTube, which I don't do. So I don't know who she is. But yeah, that is sad. No, it's not Google or Better Business Bureau. Rebecca says Kent's wife is loopy. Well, yeah, that's for sure. Maureen says, oh my God, I'm hungry now. They don't make those where I live. Grr. Jeff says, Barb can't go because Scott is busy hunting and God forbid he's not able to monitor her constantly. And you have to know with Jeff saying that, he has met them too. You know, that Jeff's been involved in all of this stuff with me. And when I have been ripped apart, they've also attacked Jeff. So, and he's not the one that even cares. You know, I mean, he believes in Stephen and Brendan's innocence and all of that. But, you know, he doesn't care about Stephen Avery Project or any of this stuff. He's only involved in it because I am. And he tries to do something to help people, and then they attack him. Joyce said, Brendan would understand that, though, deer hunting in Wisconsin is huge. Right. He does. But it's still shitty, you know? You know, just one day. You know, that's when they get to have nice snacks. You know, so just go one day. Ouch. Bit of kernel. Shannon says, don't feel weird. Who cares what haters say? LOL. I know, because they're always going to say it anyway. So, but I appreciate it. Maureen says, why didn't Barb stress to the lawyers that she said she was told she was refused to be in interviews? Why wasn't that brought up in court? Okay. Barb was not refused to be in the interviews. They said to her on any of the one time that she was there, all the other times, you know, like they're taking Brendan from school and you don't have to notify the parent. They told her that, yeah, no, it really wouldn't be good for you to be in there. And so she bought it and didn't go in. So she chose to sit outside. You know, so you even see that too then in that whole bad interrogation. And then when Barb comes in the room and they got to my head, you know, that whole thing. Barb she's sitting outside that room, you know, so she's there, but it's like, oh, law enforcement said, no, it's better if you're not there. So she's like, all right, I'll sit out here. Cherry said, so does anyone else visit him while it's hunting season? I think Carla might go now, since she's back on his list. Brendan had her removed for a period of time, but I think she's back since she and Barb are playing nicey nice. She's back on the list. Joyce says, women go deer hunting too in Wisconsin. Unless you've been there, you wouldn't understand the deer hunting thing there. I was on the phone with Barb once when she was deer hunting. So she was sitting in her stand, and her and Scott go to two different ones. And so she was using that opportunity to be able to talk without Scott listening. Because any other time Barb talks to people, it's always with Scott around, and Scott makes her put it on speakerphone so he could listen, and he chimes in and stuff. And so also on that phone call, she was saying that she wants to divorce him and had already talked to one of her sons. I don't know if she said which one, but she had already talked with one of her sons and he had okayed her to come live with him. Jeff said, Barb wasn't making any waves with law enforcement at the time, as she was just arrested on possession before Brendan was picked up. Right. Barb was arrested for possession of pot, a large quantity of which was Scott's, that she then took the blame for, but then that charge mysteriously disappeared. Rebecca says Ziggy was so lovely. Joy says, not arguing with you, Jax, just trying to explain to others who don't get how obsessive Wisconsin people are about deer hunting. Oh, yeah, I don't take it as you're arguing with me at all. It's just when I read your stuff, it would remind me of something else with the whole deer hunting thing of that, yeah, Barb used it as a way to talk to people without Scott around her. Julie said she couldn't physically talk, so no, not a YouTuber. And Rhonda saying Scott's weed, wasn't it? That's what I heard. Yep, Scott's weed. Jeff says, tell them what I said, the first thing I said after meeting Scott. Now I don't remember. So sorry, Jeff. I don't remember what you said. Is it because... Oh, you said Scott was guilty, didn't you? I think that's what you're saying. Yeah, he knew after the first time meeting Scott that Scott was guilty. Jerry says, just got this update now on Rodney Reed. Huge news. Texas indefinitely postponed Rodney Reed's execution. Good. Oh, wow. That guy is innocent. I mean, it's so stupid that you have to wait for this. That it prolongs it when the guy is innocent. Oh, this is one of the Stephen Avery Project moderators, because it says Stephen Avery Project, and that's what I tell you guys, see, because I didn't type this. Somebody else did, one of the moderators. So just because you see something that says Stephen Avery Project, it doesn't mean it comes from me. And they said, my gosh, they even went after Jeff's business. You guys have been treated brutally. Oh, yeah, they went after, like, they found pictures of Jeff's shop online and then would post the picture of the shop and telling people not to go to his print shop. Margaret says, Jax, do you have a theory on who killed Teresa? I think I haven't said my theory in a while. So I'll stop eating my popcorn for this second. Hey! Nobody's there. And tell you my theory. I had this theory before Kathleen put out her video of the whole Cuss Road thing. And some of it is like the stuff that Kathleen has said. I believe Bobby became obsessed with Teresa over her visits there, because Stephen has even said when Teresa would come, Bobby would always know she had been there and would say things to Stephen like, oh, your girlfriend was here today, those kinds of things. So he's always making comment that Teresa had been at the property. I believe that this is where I come, because I always have an issue with the bus driver, because I the bus driver had said she saw Teresa taking a picture, and I think she said she thinks it's the van. And I've proven in a video I've done that that's not possible. You can't do that. So And I've said I don't blame the bus driver because the bus driver also says that she's not sure what day it was. In the past, when Teresa has taken pictures of cars, they'd be parked down by the office. And that's where Teresa would be taking pictures. They're not parked at Barb's house. It's not Barb's car, you know. So I believed that Bobby got her to stop down by the office, claiming hustle shot, wanting to sell his vehicle. And that's how he got Teresa. And that's why the bus driver had seen her down there. If she had even seen her on that day. I don't believe, or I don't know what Bobby did to her because there's no evidence to prove what was done to Teresa, how she died, nothing. So I am not going to make up a sweat tale. And you just go from, there were bones of hers that were all the way out at the gravel pit. You've got Bobby had found a roadkill deer and cut it up in his garage. So I believe Teresa was slaughtered in the Dassey garage. Deer used as trying to cover it up. The pieces of Teresa were put in the burn barrel and was taken out to the gravel pit where it was burned. Then you have the Sikkiki letter. That Sikkiki is how an illiterate would write skinny, which is what's his face, Scott's nickname. His work at the aluminum foundry had a smelter that said that she was burned in a smelter. So I believe parts of her went there. Scott helped Bobby for whatever reason. Don't know. They then took parts of, bones and put it at Stevens to, try and point to Steven because that would be an obvious thing to do. And then they abandoned the car at the dam. And then people saw the vehicle at the dam. Law enforcement, Colburn was notified. They found the car over there at the dam, had no way to get into it. That's how they contact Scott Blodorn, Ryan Hilgas, and Michael Halbach to get the spare key. They tell the guys that since Steven is involved in a case against Manitowoc currently, that they wouldn't be able to get him for this crime unless they had some real evidence. So they helped them get the car then, whether or not it's just giving them the key or what. But then you have Ryan Hilgas had her day planner that she wrote in that day. So Ryan Hilgas was in that car after the fact. So the car was then brought in through the back way and parked there back at Stevens because they had her day planner, so they know where her visits were. And they see Stephen Avery's name on there, and they're like, bingo. So the cops planted the car there. The cops planted the key there. The cops planted the bullet there. I am not sure on the blood, on who was it, law enforcement or was it Bobby that did the blood. So I can't say anything on that. So so there you go. It's Bobby and Scott. Rebecca says, question regarding Carla and Stacy. In the phone records, they sound like they really care, want to help. Did they visit him in jail pre-making a murderer? No, they did not. And yeah, I found the phone calls interesting with, and I like Stacy. I really got along with him and think he's a good guy. But Stacy told me that he hated Steven, that Steven was a piece of shit. But Carla's interested in being involved because she just wants to be somebody. But they did not visit Steven before making a murderer. We have the visiting logs. And no, nobody but his parents and Barb. And so nobody else visited him until Christmas Eve of 2015. And that Making a Murderer had been out for a week. So no, they did not visit him. Ann says, wow, that's fantastic for Rodney Reed. Rebecca says, thanks, Jeff. That's disgusting. Rebecca says, did Barb ever discuss Fox Hills in any way when you used to socialize? What I was told about Fox Hills is they were told that like Brendan could be in danger or something. And so that's why it was Barb, Blaine, and Brendan, right, that were at Fox Hills for a night. But then what I heard from other people is they were using law enforcement to get a free night at this resort. So as far as going into any details about what was discussed at Fox Hills, no, other than the same usual of law enforcement, really trying to coerce Brendan. Nana says, why is the family so against Brad, the half-brother? Because Brad is about using this case to get his face out there too. And they want to be the only ones that get any attention from it. They really never had anything to do with Brad. Brad's not related to them and that, so, they really don't like him. And I know from my personal experience with Brad, I guess we'll go with the word of the day. He's loopy. So, and he's somebody who also has told the press that Brendan was guilty. So poor Brendan and Steven, that your family, who should give you at least the benefit of the doubt to hear things first, all instantly say you're guilty. Heather says, was Bobby dealing for Scott? Don't know, but it can't just be a coincidence that Bobby is dealing pot and Barb is arrested for having a large quantity of pot that was Scott's, and that Bobby and Scott are each other's alibis. I was going to say where there's smoke, there's fire, but I hate talking about fire with this case. Maureen says, where the coroner is now, the one they wouldn't let testify? No, I don't, Maureen. And it's something that I said, I would love to talk with her. I would love to do a live with her because I feel so bad for her. And was, I think that was my biggest takeaway from Making a Murderer Part 2. The first season, the part that really got me was Brendan's interrogation and Michael Kelly. And in Part 2, it's hearing everything that was done to the coroner. That really, really bothers me. And I would love to be able to amplify her voice. If we could do something on Stephen Avery project to really put it out there about what she's gone through, not just with this case, but also with the Ricky Hochstetler case. So, yeah, I feel for her. Christopher says, hi, Jack. Sorry I'm late. Thank you for always doing these lives. It gives a needed venue for many of us, so thank you again. You talked about raffling off some signed copies of Marnie's book. Might you have any more information on that to give us? Perhaps a holiday raffle or something like that? Okay, and one last question. What are your plans for the holidays? Thanks again. Yeah, Christopher, I've got these 3 books, and I keep saying I need to do something to raffle them off. I don't know what to do. Because like the interest seems really low, so it's like, I would hate to do it. And then, I only raise like $30. I mean, it covers the cost of the book, and, $30 is $30, but, I don't know. So maybe I'll open that up to you all on what do you think I could do? I have them sitting right here by the computer, these 3 books. All 3 kids signed it. They signed the same thing in all 3 books. So each has their name and a message. And Brandon's message, and he's Brandon, not a Brendan, is pretty deep. And he's the youngest. And it was like, and, he's known to be quiet. He's like, I don't want to say really messed up, but it's, remember, he was way young when his mom, was taken from him. So, he's been without his mom, and that just was, when he wrote that, it was like, oh, and I don't want to say what it is, because that's also like what you get. If you get the book, you get to see what that message is. That's, I think, pretty incredible. Holiday raffle could be interesting. What are my plans for the holidays? Unknown. For Thanksgiving, I know one of my sisters just bought a new house. She's currently moving from the house she's in now to that house. She says she might be done moving in by Thanksgiving, so she would like to host it at her place so everybody can see her new house. She says her kitchen won't be done then, but it will be functional. But I'm not sure. And I always do something with my son. Like we'll go see a movie or something. So yeah, so my Thanksgiving plans aren't set in stone. And then same thing with Christmas. Don't know. Well, I had said to Jeff for the Thanksgiving weekend, since he's his shop won't be open on that Thursday, Friday, and then, you got Saturday, Sunday. I'm like, take me away. Let's go somewhere. I would just love to, unplug and go somewhere. But so not sure. Sherry says, Jax, whatever happened with that crazy Lisa calling cops and I think Attorney General on you. Oh, okay. Lisa Zakowski. I refer to her as Psycho. First time I ever met her, she's a crazy stalker nutso fan. And so I was going up to Manitowoc. I was going to Carla's house. And it was public known that I was going up to Manitowoc and I was going to Carla's. And so this girl was like crazy psycho that, she wanted to meet all of us. So we met for a breakfast or a lunch or something like that at a restaurant first. Carla and all that. And so the girls like all starstruck. And that was my first experience of, because of the stuff that I do. And I didn't have Stephen Avery Project at that time. I was, just free Brendan in, Brendan stuff, that she like wanted to get her picture taken with me. And so, like I was some celebrity, all weird. And then she wanted her picture taken with Jeff too. Jeff was referred to as the printer guy because he was making everybody shirts and stuff. And Jeff hates having his picture taken. And I forced him to do it, because I'm like, be nice, have your picture taken with her. And so that was all weird. And I'm sorry, but I will judge you on how you treat wait staff. And we're just in this like diner thing, and she treated the waitress like shit. She sent everything back, not at one time, at different times, including the water, that she said there was a problem with the water. And she was just really rude to the waitress, which, if something's wrong with your food, even if something's really wrong with your food, the waitress has nothing to do with that. She's just bringing it to you. So don't chew out the waitress or say anything ignorant to her. She's just doing her job and bringing you the food. And so she ripped on the waitress. And then when we left, of course, she forgot, or not forgot, she refused to leave a tip. So I knew from my first time meeting her that she's nuts. And so there was also this camp out thing that was planned, which was not my idea, and I thought was a stupid idea. Lisa was making all these demands on the camp out, saying that she's got medical issues, and so she can't sleep in a tent because everybody was going to be camping on Carla's property. So it was just a way for Lisa to try and scam that, she has to stay in Carla's house and get a bed because she's got medical conditions. Then another thing that she was all weird about is that, and I was talking about this earlier in planning a protest and stuff, that people were so worried about that in a protest, if you stop, you can be arrested, that you have to keep moving. And so she was having this fit about like we weren't being accessible for people with special needs or whatever. And so I said something about, because I even told Dolores, like I've posted that picture of me talking with Dolores when Dolores is in her golf cart. Well, what we were discussing was the rally that was coming up soon, the rally that I had organized and then got cut out of at the last minute. And so what Dolores was saying to me there is that Stephen really wanted her to go to the rally. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be there around all the people. And she has trouble walking. And I said, well, if you're going to go, because, I know it's what Stephen wants, what if we rent you a wheelchair, and somebody can push you around in a wheelchair. So then that's something I said when Lisa is freaking all about a wheelchair, or I said, we can rent you a wheelchair. And so then Lisa said something about how, they're going to end up getting arrested because they can't walk the whole time. And my comment was, if they really arrested people who are in wheelchairs because they're sitting down, imagine the visual that would be, that Manitowoc is arresting people who can't walk. And so then Lisa took that to mean, again, like I'm taking a shot at people who can't walk. And she spun this into this big ordeal. And she's just really, really nuts. So Lisa is one of the people who, even though she got the shirt she ordered, and the shirt that she paid for, she claimed she did not. But, Jeff kept records of all of that. She got her freaking shirt. So she contacted my local police department in my town and filed a charge against me for claiming I stole money from t-shirt sales. And then she also contacted the Illinois Attorney General's office. So I end up having to go into my police station and talk to him about it, and then show them all the evidence that Lisa did get her shirt, and then show all the harassment I get from this chick because she tweeted about me like nonstop back then. And then with the Attorney General's office and with the police, actually, I had to give them Stephen Drizzen's cell phone number that I have, so he could let them know that he told me he didn't want the money and that I've given the money to Barb and all money is accounted for. And so at the end of it, she was told she needs to knock her shit off because actually I've done nothing wrong. That case is closed and she's harassing me. And she's never stopped. She still to this day will say stuff about me. It's really crazy. These people are nuts. Yep. Julie. Whoop, whoop. Sherry says, has Stephen even hinted on who he believes killed Teresa? Oh, he hasn't hinted. He's flat out said it is Scott and Bobby. So that's what Stephen says. And Stephen says the reason he says Scott and Bobby is because that's where the evidence points. He's like, I'm just following the evidence and I shouldn't do something. I shouldn't be in prison for something I didn't do. And I don't care who did it. Why should I do this for somebody else, family or not? So he says it's Scott and Bobby. Cherry says, would deer blood actually cover the presence of human blood in tests? No. Oh, and I see Jeff answered that too. No. So you could go in the Dassey garage. This is what I've been told. You could go in that Dassey garage today and still find human blood on that floor, testing that would turn up the human blood. Cherry says, weird theory, but was Teresa known to dabble in drugs? Perhaps she had a debt she could pay to drug dealer Bobby and Bam. I don't want to rip on Teresa Halbach because she is the victim here. So please don't. This is, it's hard to do because, you get attacked for it, that you're attacking the victim. But that video diary she made and the things she said totally seemed to me like she was on drugs when she was saying that stuff. It seemed very odd to me. And we're not supposed to talk about this stuff in Teresa's life, but I mean, she was having all kinds of sex with lots of different people. She had sex with Scott Blodorn, her roommate, married people, threesomes. So did she dabble in drugs? If, something came out about that, I wouldn't be shocked by it at all, Terry. So I don't know if that's something that anybody's ever looked into. Since she was going to the salvage yard, did she get drugs from Bobby and or Scott? I don't know. Anne says, but I don't think Bobby would have known that. He certainly would have known to use tarps and things, though. Right. Well, all that stuff that was put on the RAV4, to me, was done so it would stand out and be easier to find, since none of that's on anything else. So that was just dumb. Jeff says, unlike the movies, drug dealers don't kill their clients who owe them money. A dead person will never pay up. Right. But if she was getting her drugs from Bobby, that's where his obsession would start with her, his sexual obsession. So I don't think she was killed over a drug debt. I think she was killed over he's a sexually depraved maniac. Maureen says, that means Barb has been lying all along about that day. Barb's lying and is covering. Just when did she know and what does she know? Anne says, I'm not sure, but I thought Zellner had got access to Bobby's garage to test, or she requested access anyway. I believe so, and we've never heard anything on that. So is it she didn't find anything, so that whole thing's just been dropped, or is it something that's still being worked on? Because, we read her filings, but she doesn't give everything she's got, So is it something that she's still got in her pocket? I don't know. We just have to wait, and sucks waiting. Anne says, but then again, she might not have Teresa's sample. So, Anne says, recommendation of 120 days reprieve from sentence for Rodney, giving him time to have things tested, I guess. That's great. There's somebody here in Chicago, Mark Clements, and I'm Facebook friends with him. He was somebody who was wrongfully convicted and was freed. And I don't know him. I've never met him. I don't really know his story, but I find it interesting that last week or so, my friend and I went to the Harold Washington Library in Chicago, and there is a display on Shocker, Corrupt Chicago Cop, and the horrible things that he had done for years, and the people that went to jail or prison because of this corrupt guy. And there was the picture of Mark Clements right there. And I was like, hey, I'm Facebook friends with that guy. I don't know his story, but I'm Facebook friends with him. So I see that guy's stuff in my feed all the time. And he's down in Texas. He went down there for this whole Rodney Reed thing. Because, the wrongfully convicted people, they, once released, they've got their own little secret society, and all want to be there for each other. So he's currently down there. And so there'll be stuff in my news feed that he's showing, like vigils and such down there. I don't really know anything on the Rodney Reed case. I read up on it the other day to see that, there's clear evidence that this guy is innocent. So, and that's just crazy to me that, there's, the death penalty thing, since there's so much reasonable doubt just brought up, there should be an automatic freeze on that until all this stuff has truly been looked at, because death is something you can't come back from, or can you? In the case of the one inmate that was pronounced or died and they resuscitated him, so now he's trying to say, I did my life sentence, you should have to let me out. Rebecca says, so they were after his money at that stage then. Correct. One of the moderators says, I think Carla might have visited him while in jail, but not in prison. Right. Yeah. Did it first because that's when the news and stuff was around. And then when he's found guilty and, so it's like, okay, throw him away. Ooh, Carrie says it's freezing. Oh, I hope it's working for you. Heather says Brad is a nut. Okay, people replying to each other. Okay, Carrie says, never mind, I guess my PC was lagging. Nana says, does any family visit Brendan in Oshkosh? Well, his mom does for sure, and I know Carla goes now, and Carla brings some of her family, and that's it. I don't think any other family visits Brendan. People replying to each other. Andrea says, that's a big thing that made me really believe the cops were being shady, not letting the coroner on site and threatening her. Like, did they not realize how suspicious that seemed in an already suspicious case? Their excuse for not letting her investigate and do her job was ridiculous. And that's the thing, that there's the Ricky Hochstetler case that I don't know a whole lot about. And I may get some of these facts wrong. So any of you, I'm sure there's people on here that know that case way better than I. So Ricky Hochstetler was this kid, or teenager or early 20s. I can't recall his age. Again, numbers, I don't know that. Who's walking home at night. It's those 2-lane roads with no, they don't have street lights and all that stuff. He was hit by a car. Rumor is he was hit by a cop. Because the cops were all at a local place that the cops all hung out at where drinking happens. So it was a hit and run. Then when cops rushed to the scene, when it gets reported or whatever, they run over the kid again, not paying attention or whatever. So the coroner was told to make sure, she says, the boy was already dead when he was run over the second time. And her response was, if that's what the evidence shows, that's what my report will reflect. So it is known from the get-go, she is not going to lie for the thin blue line. So now you know when the Avery case happens, there's no way she's going to play ball and help you do anything there. So they have to keep her away. And that's why it just crushes me on what happened to that woman, because that's what you want from a coroner. You want somebody who, she is the final voice for the victim. So it shouldn't matter to her who did this, family, stranger, whatever. It doesn't matter who it is. What are the facts? That's it. Don't look at all that outer stuff. That's all they're supposed to do, is find justice for the victim. And that's all that woman wants to do, is find the true justice. Making shit up to put Stephen away because of whatever, that's not justice for Teresa, because her killer is still out there. That's not justice. So that's why, let me put on my political hat, you need to be looking at who's running for coroner in your county. You need to be looking at every position on your ballot. And you have to vote for everything on your ballot. If it's two-sided, make sure you're flipping that over. Don't do it by the computer. Don't use their computer thing. Doesn't matter if they're not sending you, where you have to use a pen. You tell them you want a paper ballot. They have to give you a paper ballot. You get your paper ballot, you make sure you look at it all. Ahead of time, you look at who's running for these things and where they stand on the issues. You can go to your local party, whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican, or you can even look at it online, and you request your sample ballot. So once, you can request your sample ballot, which will show you exactly what the ballot's going to look like when you go to vote. So you'll be able to see all the names. And then you're on a computer right now. So you have the computer, you have the Googler. So use the Googler and look up those candidates and see where they stand on things. Who's your sheriff? Who's your district attorney? All that. Look at that. Where do they stand on wrongfully accused? Look at who's a qualified coroner. So, all right, political hat off. Heather says, I have Marnie's book, easy read, highly recommended. Well, people have criticized this book. Okay. It's not very long. It's a little over 100 pages that has pictures in it. This is not Marnie's book. This is her kids' book. That these 3 kids have written about their experience. What happened to them, what law enforcement did to them to coerce them into saying their mom was guilty when they know she's not. Her son, Andrew, was home with her that day when the crime occurred. So he clearly knows his mom couldn't have been there shooting this woman because he was homesick from school and Marnie was home with him. But they got into his head. And for a time, he was then saying his mom was guilty. So these are written in their words. And so when this book was sent to an editor changed some things. And then the kids are able to look at a draft. And so Emily, her daughter, is twins with Andrew. And so, there's chapters from each of these 3 kids. And so when she's reading stuff, that is from her twin, who she recalls her other half. She's like, Andrew doesn't talk like that. That's not Andrew. Put it back. So it is in the kids' words, So this is what the kids went through. Marnie's story isn't completely out there yet. There is a press conference for Marnie on Tuesday. I will not be at the press conference. They want the press conference kept really small and to the point. So I will not be there, but we'll discuss it afterwards on what happens at that press conference. I know there's going to be a special guest. So we'll get into that then. Heather says, Jeff, take her to Fox Hills. I like the way you think, Heather. Oh, yeah, that would be good. Let's go to Fox Hills and stay there for a night when we're in Manitowoc. Can I request the Dassy Yonda room? Jeff LOLs too. And I know we've passed Fox Hills on when Jeff and I have been there before, because I've even commented, oh, that's Fox Hills. So, and when Jeff and I go back up there, we'll go by Fox Hills again. And, oh, I'm looking at Heather's next comment. And so, but I still need y'all. I need y'all to be my producer. So like in that thread I made, make my itinerary. Where should I go? Give me the addresses, map it out for me, or reach out to people that, you want to see if they'll talk to me, so produce it. I'll just be the, boots on the ground, but, you send me there. And Heather says, is that why Jeff doesn't have a profile pic? Well, in Jeff's picture currently that I see on there is actually, I have that tattooed on me. And so does Jeff. So it's like, I know we're corny. That's like our symbol. And because my nickname is Jax, that you obviously know. And so it was Jeff. Okay. Sorry. It was Jeff who first thought of me, since my name was Jax. He thought of, the game Jax, those. Jax. Jeff welded this. He made this big honking Jax. So, so Jeff even has like tattooed in here. He's got some Jacks that are tattooed there. And Jeff has always liked skulls. We've got skulls all over this house. My youngest nieces will be afraid at times to go in my house because of all the skull stuff. But also Jeff and I ran the haunted house together. So because of Jeff liking skulls and my nickname being Jax, this is like the skull and crossbones, but instead of crossbones, it's Jax. Just something came up with spur of the moment. And so we both have that tattooed on us. And that's what his picture is right there. Heather says, oh, that's a pet peeve of mine too. Don't be disrespectful to your servers, right? It's not their fault. If your food sucks, it's not their fault. Don't take that out on them. Yeah, there can be bad servers. I get that, and that's when you deal with that. But you don't treat them like they're your servant. I mean, I know they're serving you your food, but they're not your servant. I've just never liked that. And so I know that from the get-go. And Jeff and I know from like when you go to restaurants, we're both all tattooed up, and there'll be people that will have a certain opinion of you, but it's like Jeff's going to tip you really well if you give us good service, because that's very important to Jeff. If you give us good service, you're going to get a big tip from him, but you look at him and you think like some biker dude, he looks scary, he looks mean. But it's like, no, he truly values, he knows you're working hard for your money, and he's going to tip you well for it. Julie says, you know what happens to people that treat wait staff like shit and sending food back? Just imagine. Yeah, I don't ever send food back. Stop. Because I'm worried of that. Steven says, got a question. What's this about February 11th? That they have till February. Have I missed something? Is it to do with Stephen or Brendan? Yes, Stephen, it's the state did a last minute, they were supposed to be responding to Kathleen's filing, and they had until the 13th or the 14th, depending on where you look, to respond. They asked for an extension and it was granted. So now we have to wait till February 11th for the state to respond to Kathleen's filing. And then after that, we have to wait for the court's decision on that. And I believe the court has no time limit. So it'll get dragged out. Jeff said Lisa, was getting stoned in her car waiting for us at the restaurant. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that part. I skip when you people are replying to each other. Stephen says, where can I see brief? Are you talking about Kathleen's brief? We have it posted here, but you can also go to Kathleen Zellner's website. She'll have it listed on there where you can go and read her brief. Julie says, this Lisa psycho is a total whack job. Oh, yeah. I mean, she's really something. Stephen says, thank you. Julie Thorne says, Julie Thorne, I never read people's last names. The best cheese popcorn on earth until you get to the bottom of the bag. And then Jeff says, she leaves the bottom of the bag for me. Sometimes I do, Jeff. Now I've been giving it to the dogs. He's going to be mad now. When I eat popcorn, I just want to eat, the big pieces. When you get down to the bottom of the bag and it's all the broken pieces, I'm too lazy to eat that. So now I just dump it on the floor and let the dogs eat it. I don't know if Jeff's still on here. Julie says, luminol glows in any body fluid, but there is a special test just for human blood. Interesting. Dawn said she was living life. Right. Well, and that's what I say about Teresa. And anybody. I don't like when a girl, if you sleep around a lot and somebody calls you a slut or whatever, own it. So what? You're single? Do your thing. It's your life. I really don't care. The only issue I have with Teresa sleeping around is nobody seriously looked into her life. And all her sleeping around and literally breaking up a marriage. I know they glanced at those people, but come on. It was instantly, is Stephen Avery in custody yet? Excuse me? Why would Stephen Avery be in custody? Why isn't Bradley Chuck in custody or whatever his wife's name was? Julie says, there are so many theories on what really happened to Teresa. All we do know that it wasn't Stephen and Brendan. That's what I say. No matter how this turns out, because I can make a case saying it was Ryan Hilgast that did it. Oh, wow. Sorry, a friend of mine who just had surgery, I had messaged her letting her know if she needs anything to let me know. And she's like so busy, this woman. She's truly an inspiration. She is somebody, I don't want to get political because I don't like to get political in this group, but so she lives on south side of Chicago. She has lost not one but two children to gun violence. They were killed 20 years apart. She was pregnant with her son when her daughter was shot accidentally. It wasn't meant for her. It ricocheted and killed her daughter. And then 20 years later, her son was literally shot to death in their front yard. So this woman has had a tough life. And so she just had surgery. And she's always very busy. You know, obviously Chicago's got a whole lot of gun violence. And she's with the Brady, well, they're now called Brady United. It used to be called the Brady Campaign, which is trying to fight gun violence. And so she is the state lead for the Illinois chapter, and she's brought me on to help with Brady. So I am their events lead and their Team Enough co-lead. But she's always busy going to some gun event, this gun event, that gun event. She's constantly speaking at things. I mean, flying around the country. It's crazy. But she's also got a lot of depression, and the holidays are a horrible time of year for her, in missing her daughter and her son. And she said her surgery went well, but so I messaged her though, and I said, let me know if you need anything, and please take this weekend off and relax. So now she texted me saying, you don't have to worry, they confiscated my car keys, not allowed me to drive for 6 weeks. So good. You know, she really needs to rest. But back to what you're saying, Julie, I say the only thing I know for sure is Stephen and Brendan are innocent. So I can make a case for the zippers did it. The cops did it. So you tell me any of that, if that's the way, even though I am set on Scott and Bobby did this. But if something turned up and it's like, oh, look, it was Ryan Hilgas, I would go, oh, okay. But it wouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know? So I just know Stephen and Brendan are innocent. Okay, Heather saying working here, fine. Charlie says, what do I want for Christmas? Why do I keep saying Charlie when it's Christopher? And I have glasses on. I apologize, Christopher. Why am I saying Charlie? I don't even know a Charlie. What do I want for Christmas? Well, like with my son now, my son is 26, and I don't buy him things anymore. I tell him to pick an event, something, so I've bought him concert tickets, or my son really likes going and seeing stand-up comedy, so I've bought him stuff for that, so I'm like, pick something to do. Things are things. I want him to have an experience, to do something. And I also leave it up to him on whether or not he wants to do that with me. I'm not one of those moms that I want to make my son be with me. I just luck out though that my son actually likes me. Go figure. It so wants to be with me on things, but there's times that I've bought tickets just for him and his girlfriend. And then other times, like last year too, his girlfriend is really into making a murderer and true crime and all that. So for her, for Christmas last year, I think it was Christmas, I bought tickets for us. I took them to go see when Drizzen and Knight Rider did an event. And then I introduced them to Drizzen and Knight Rider and stuff. And that's the event too that Earl was texting me throughout that. And when he called me a cunt, and I showed the text to Drizzen. So it's like things, I mean, there's always things, but so Oh, do you also go the cheesy route of world peace, or what do I want for Christmas? I want all the wrongfully accused to be free, Um, so even though, there's things I like and things I want, I feel weird about that kind of thing. And I've always been like that, even when a kid, and it's like, make a Christmas list, and it just feels kind of weird when it's get me this stuff, you know? So, and I'm not a religious person. So I don't have that aspect for Christmas. I'm one of those that I'm going to wish you a happy holidays, because whatever holiday you celebrate, I hope you have a good one, and so I don't have a war on Christmas. I'm happy for you to celebrate Christmas, so happy holidays. So I wouldn't know what to say on that, Christopher, but thank you for asking. Maureen says the jury were coerced, I presume. Oh yeah. Maureen, are you talking in Stephen's case? Oh, absolutely they were, because they had two people on his jury that worked for the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. So I would love to talk to a juror. So if there's a juror out there, not Richard Mahler or whatever his name is, he's gotten too hooked up with the whole wanting to be famous and popular and all that stuff. So I don't care to talk to that guy. I would love to talk to another juror. We can keep it secret too. I don't have to reveal who you are, but I would love to talk to a juror and find out what happened back there. Andrea says, right, you want an honest report. Heather's laughing at Googler. What movie is that from where first was said the Googler? Maureen says, where is Len Kaczynski now, the Pratt? Isn't he in jail? Thought he was in jail now for his whole being pervy with his clerk. Oh, don't apologize, Heather, that you meant it was Marnie's kids' book. I just want to make sure that's stressed, because I've seen people complain that this isn't Marnie's story. Oh, right, because it's my mom, Marnie, so I want to make sure people know that, because I'm not selling you fake goods. Margaret says, can Jeff post his contact info? I don't know if he has already. If I get to the bottom, Margaret, and he hasn't, I'll post it in here. He also has a Facebook for his shop. Let me find it. A-D. This is his Facebook for his print shop. Okay. Maureen says, we still haven't got a body. Everything is suspect in this case. Here. Yeah. And the whole bones being given to the Hallback family that you said in court wasn't her bones. Oh. Julie says, oh my God, that's heartbreaking. Margaret says, so sorry for your friend. It's something I could never imagine. Every year on her son's birthday, she does a thing in her neighborhood where people walk around and knock on doors and pass out flyers, because there is a reward if somebody will give up the person who killed her son. And so I attended it last year, and she's Black. The community is mostly Black people. There was first a service at a church, and so we were at the church first for this, where, oh my God, they had, because it was a thing all for people who lost their children to gun violence. And so at one point they had all the people stand up who lost children. And it's just like, oh my God, you're going to, you just sob at all these people that lost their children. And so then after that, we all went to Delphine's house. And that's when now you're going to get the flyers and, everybody will take part of the neighborhood. And so when we pull up there was like 2 cop cars there, white cops. And, so then my activist hat goes on and kind of political. I don't want to argue with you all on this, but I'm somebody who knows that I come from a world of white privilege. White privilege doesn't mean I'm rich, doesn't mean I had a great life, but it just means my life hasn't been made harder because of the color of my skin. And so when I get to Delphine's house and there's cops out front, my guard is instantly up, thinking because, I'm the only white person there and I'm with all black people and these are white cops, they're going to now start harassing the black people. So now I know it's my job to get in the front, because if anything goes down, I got to take it for the team. I got to be the white person that's going to go there to protect them all. But it turns out, see, and this is me jumping to conclusions, the cops were there to actually protect us, because also I live in my world of naivety, I guess. And I forget this is a bad neighborhood, that her son was literally shot in her yard. So the cops were there to drive along with us as we were doing the houses, so we were protected. So, but something interesting I'll tell you on that too is, so I was doing the side, one side of a street, and these 2 ladies were doing the other side, 2 black women, and we were out of flyers, and now we needed to go back to Delphine's house. And so the cop who had been trailing us to watch offered us a ride back. And it was an SUV cop car thing. And the women I were with got nervous in the car and then were afraid to shut the door all the way, because they were afraid they were like being tricked and were going to be arrested. And now when you shut that back top door, they're stuck back there. And now, me, the white person, I don't jump to that conclusion anyway at all. But I now have to, it's like, oh, wow, I never would have thought of that for them, this is a very scary moment that they're in a police car, So, but then, I made a joke, might be an inappropriate joke, because that's what I do in weird times. So I said, no, you guys are safe. A white girl's here too. And then they all laughed and the cop laughed and it was all good. But yeah, Delphine's story, it's horrible. Carrie says, I believe Scott and Bobby did it too. Yep. Gail says, when you used to be around Scott, did you get any bad vibes from him? No, I did not. Scott in person was always very nice to me. Now over text, near the end, he gets bitchy with me. But he would yell at Barb a lot, but Barb would yell at him a lot. So, people who will say that Barb's like abused by Scott, I didn't see that. Other than, yes, I know that Scott would make her have to put her phone on speaker so he could listen. So that is abusive. And then Scott had a thing of like, he would know how long it takes Barb to get home from work, and he expects her to come straight home from work. And if it took her longer, he's like flipping out on that. And then he wants the dishes done directly, so there's abusive things in there, but Barb never behaved like a battered woman. She hollered at him as much as he hollered at her. So it was a weird dynamic. I never got, though, that they like really loved each other. I didn't get that feeling from it. Scott actually cried, like that live video we had done. He cried. And I bought it. So I'm just a horrible judge of character, that I want to help people and I fall for their shit. And then I get burned. I even wrote an article all about defending Scott. How embarrassing now. I was snowed by it. Debbie says you need a new laptop for Christmas. Well, this is a new used laptop that I'm using currently. Jeff's got a buddy who gets laptops from a school because teachers are all given a laptop to use while in school. And then when the school year's up, they turn them all in. And then the next year they get new ones. So Jeff just switched me to this new laptop. So I have a new used laptop currently, and it was working all great. And then the last one shut down. My video shut down. So it might not have anything to do with laptop. And maybe I need a new router. Then my router is just on the other side of this wall. Like, you see where the lamp is? Where the light's coming from there? The router is like right there. Because that's my kitchen over there. So it's not like I'm way far away from the router. Anne says it's midnight here and I'm wrecked. Sorry, Jax, I have to go. I'll catch up tomorrow with the vid. Thank you so much for the live. It was great to spend some time with yourself and everyone here. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for joining us. It's only 6 p.m. here. And yeah, I'm so bad with the time change thing, but glad you were able to be here. Julie says, I think Bobby and Scott are guilty, but did Earl and Chuck have a hand in it too? Yeah, it's so sketchy. You know, the way they behaved and the hiding underneath clothes and, yeah, come search the salvage yard. You know, we know the cops, these exact people framed Stephen before, but come on in. And just their behavior, also their records. I don't know. You know, it's all so curious. And yeah, the cadaver dogs went to Chuck's trailer. Julie says, Lenny got a suspended sentence, never did any time. No time for Kaczynski. All right, there's where I posted Jeff's Facebook. Debbie says, do you have even a small feeling that Teresa is alive? No, I do not. I know there's plenty of people that do. I also believe that there's never been 100% proof that any of those bones are Teresa's bones. And, you know, that's the thing about the little boy who cried wolf. The lab, Sherry Culhane, big hair, has shown herself to be a liar. Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department has shown themselves to be liars. So no matter what you do, now is suspect. So, you know, so I don't think it's me being a crazy conspiracy theorist when I go, I don't see that there's proof that those are even Teresa Halbach's bones. Because anything that comes out of Manitowoc Sheriff's Department or Big Hair is suspicious. Can't be believed. I just don't think that, like, Teresa was paid a substantial sum to just disappear. That to me seems too conspiracy theory, whatever. Just like I do not think the police, the Sheriff's Department would kill an innocent girl just to frame Stephen. It just, I mean, I know they're horrible people. So am I bad for thinking, oh, I really don't think they would go that far? But like I said earlier, if all of a sudden Teresa Halbach showed up and said, okay, enough with this, he's innocent, I'm alive, I would go, oh my God, but it wouldn't be like, well, I'd probably be, but it wouldn't be, I cannot believe that happened because, oh, okay, the people that had that theory were right, you know, but because the only thing I know is Stephen and Brendan are innocent. Scrolling past, you're replying to each other. Margaret said, you could hold an auction on here for the books. I could, Margaret, but see, like even now in this live, there's only 31 people that are on here right now. And it's like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, with 30 people being on here, if I was to do an auction, is it really only going to make like $30? Is that embarrassing? You know, that it's like, oh, here, Marnie's lawyer, I got you $30. I don't know, you know, so it's like, what can I do to bring in, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, but something decent that could go towards her legal debt. And I will be, I should have done it today, but I've been too busy. Marnie emailed me the other day her daughter's number because I really need to organize with her daughter. Her daughters want to do art show fundraiser. They need somebody to help do it. And I have actually had an art show fundraiser before and stuff. So I'll be there to just kind of oversee it a little bit, but, you know, and make sure it happens. And, you know, I've got friends that are artists, as you can see, like this thing back here, my tattoo artist painted for me. That was a Christmas present for Jeff. Jeff's favorite band is Tool, if you've ever heard of the band Tool. So I just said to my tattoo guy, make me a painting that's like got a Tool vibe to it. And so that was what he painted. So that was a Christmas present for Jeff for like 5 years ago or something. So, and like the girlfriend I went to lunch with today is an artist. And, you know, so I have people who are willing to donate pieces, and that kind of stuff. We've talked about it online before. So like there's a moderator here who said she would paint something and send it for us to try and sell to, you know, make money for Marnie's legal defense. Carrie says, don't be embarrassed. You had no way of knowing. I mean, well, it's easy. I get cringy on things. Maureen says, I've managed pubs for over 30 years. I can read people pretty well, and Scott is not to be trusted, believe me. Well, I know that now, Maureen. And yeah, I'm sure you definitely have seen all kinds of people. If you manage a pub, do you have fish and chips and shepherd's pie? Do you do food in your pubs? Because, ooh, some good fish and chips. I like. Cassandra says, just tuning in. Did I miss anything important? Nah, this is kind of a free-for-all. People, you know, because I say it's Ask Jax anything. So you want to ask me whatever, I'll answer to the best of my ability. Julie says, Jax, do you and Jeff have a theater type setup behind you? Correct. This room, I mean, it's what you would consider in the house the living room, you know, because right here is the front door that we never use. And so, yeah, this is set up that over here is the big screen TV. So then this couch here, that's the couch that, like when I say I'm going to go lay on the couch, that's the couch I'm going to lay on. And then where the dogs are back here, this couch is actually Jeff built I don't know if you can see, but this, you can't, okay, see, yeah, you can see. He built this big riser thing that these are on now. So it's like theater seating. So, you know, so if we have people over for whatever, you know, like we've done pay-per-view events like UFC unboxing and stuff, or I've had people over to watch Making a Murderer, actually. Yeah, so that's why, yeah, it looks weird that I'm sitting here in between couches that way. But yeah, it's a theater setup in here. Margaret says, my daughter and I rack our brains on who done it, but we believe it wasn't Stephen or Brendan did it. Yeah, that's the only thing that we can know for sure, because that's all the evidence is there to show that those two are innocent. Karen says, Earl and Chuck, I would say no. The dogs hid on every other property except the Averys. Yeah, I mean, there's just something not right there. Andrea says, I think she's dead, but I think law enforcement came across her body and decided to use it to their advantage. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's a good one too. I think they were keeping tabs on Stephen, knew she had been to his property, and just hatched a plan to get out of the lawsuit. Just one theory I have. Yeah, that's been discussed. That, so when the car was left at that dam, Teresa was in it. So, so for me, that would still be that Scott and Bobby did it. But then it means that all the bones, the electronics, everything was planted by law enforcement. Heather says specify a starting bid. Yeah. I wonder how that would go over. And Carrie says GoFundMe. Here's the thing with GoFundMes. A portion of that is taken. So the people never get the full amount on the GoFundMe. So that's why, like when I had said, if people wanted to put money on Melissa's thing for her tablet, they could put it in my PayPal, because no fee is taken from that, from the PayPal. Unless, like, okay, so the money that Maz put in there, since Maz is from the UK, then it had to be converted from pounds to dollars. If with the PayPal, as long as I click when putting the money in my account that it can be the 1 to 2 business days that they put it to the bank, not that I need it that second, there's no charge for it. But now when I put the money in the commissary, there is a fee for it, because the prison just really has to make money off the inmates every which way. And so no matter how you donate the money to the inmate there's going to be a fee taken from it. So so that's, and I know there's been talk too in GoFundMe stuff that people are supposed to be paying taxes on that, but then there's other people that say you don't pay taxes on that. I don't know. So that's why I think personally the easiest thing is, stick the money in a PayPal and go that way. So, and then there's also that paper trail. You can see, so like the couple of people who did that they put the money in my PayPal for stuff, I'm able to show you that I now put that money in the account. You can see it. I could show it to you. It happened. And and then the fee, whatever the it's like a percentage of how much you're putting in there. Don't ask me to do numbers. Margaret says, nope, you could make it a week-long auction and advertise before you start it. Okay, you're working it. Cindy says, isn't Colburn friends with Earl? He was. Don't know if that's still current, but yeah, they were friends. And Colburn used to get car parts from the salvage yard. Karen says, Kathleen Zellner figured out the timeline between Bobby leaving, Scott sees him, her truck being parked by the bridge, property butting up to Scott's. Right. But Scott didn't live there at that time. Scott and Barb bought that house during the trial, right? Was it during the trial? But it is very close. It's close to I keep getting some weird flashes at times, so whatever. It's close to the dam. I showed that in a past video, and when Jeff and I go to Manitowoc tomorrow, oh, did I say that? Am I really going tomorrow? Did I go today? Don't know, Earl. You'll have to keep watching. Jeff and I will do that, so we'll show you where that dam is and how close it is to Barb and Scott's, and also how close that is to Cuss Road, and how close that is to the salvage yard, and how close that is to the Cenex station where the guy reported to Colburn that he saw the car at the dam. We'll show that all to you. Margaret says, by the way, who is Marnie? Marnie Yang has been in prison for 11 years for a murder she was coerced into confessing to. And so she's another person that I advocate for. She is in the same prison as Melissa Kaluzinski. And so when I go to the prison every other Wednesday, I visit both of them. Marnie's case has made international news because it involves Sean Gale, who here in Illinois, he's like a god because he was on the 1985 Chicago Bears, who won the Super Bowl in 1986, January 1986. Big, huge deal here. I mean, the Chicago Bears were everywhere. They made a video, Saturday Night Live, all that stuff. And so Sean Gale was on that Super Bowl team. And so this case involves Sean Gale. Marnie was, I guess you say dating Sean Gale, but really it was just having sex. And Marnie and Sean were also business partners. They would buy real estate together and flip it. Sean Gale had 17 girlfriends at that time. He still currently has a big stable of women. And one girl, Ronnie Ryder, was pregnant, and somebody murdered her, shot her to death. And they went after Marnie for it. So that's it in a nutshell, but there's so much to it. And there's a press conference, like I said, next week. There's also a court hearing coming up. So Marnie's case will get out into the press again next week. So we'll do a live about Marnie when that stuff comes out, and we'll do a, you go ahead and fire questions at me then about Marnie. But prior to our filing for Marnie a month ago or whenever it was, Marnie's never told her story. Well, she still hasn't told her story, but now we have her brief that was filed recently. So anything that was out there on Marnie's case prior to that, it shows she's so guilty. I mean, she's on tape saying she did it to a friend who was wired. But everything's not as it seems. So there's more to it. Yeah. We'll talk about that another time. Maureen says, ha ha ha, mince and dumplings, but am retired now. I'm 72. I love a good fish and chips, but I don't want it to be too beer battery. Sorry, I don't like beer, but I know that's something that's used a lot in it. Cassandra says, that's my theory as well. She was still in the car when Andy found the car. Yeah. I mean, that would make the cops even worse. But I shouldn't say cops because they're deputies. It's the sheriff's department. The police department aren't the bad guys. It's the sheriff's department that are the bad guys. But I could totally see that. Christy says, for the auction, you can set a reserve price, and if the bids do not reach the reserve price, it doesn't sell. Okay, well, what do you guys suggest that be? I'm so bad with those kinds of things. Again, it's anything that's number related is really like bizarre for me, that my brain just doesn't tick that way. So I don't know what the value of this book being signed by the kids that wrote it and being just it's only 100 and something pages. It's a small little book that I think, what do they sell it for? Well, it doesn't say on here. Is it like $17 to buy it? I don't know. And then I also have, that I keep talking about and have never done anything with, is I've got The Wrecking Crew that's signed by John Farrick, and The Illusion of Justice that's signed by Buting, that I can auction, raffle off if anybody wants signed copies of those that have been sitting here for literally years. Karen says, the ex-boyfriend, I don't trust him as far as I can spit. To me, I feel he is involved somehow, just my opinion. Well, I believe that Ryan Hilgas, Scott Blodorn, and Michael Halbach helped police plant that vehicle. And I believe it's because they were told by law enforcement. Why would they doubt law enforcement? If you've never been in trouble with the law, if you're not a person of color, you have no reason not to believe cops, deputies, whatever, when they say, we know Steven Avery did this, but we're involved in this lawsuit for him being wrongfully convicted. And so he's going to be able to get away with this. We need to have solid evidence. I probably would do it. Somebody hurt one of my loved ones and I'm being told these people did it and they're going to walk, I think it would help plant something there. I think I would. So that's why I say, if that's the case, I don't blame them for that then. I blame that for that now. Because everything's out there to show you were wrong. You were lied to. I don't fault you for it, but now come forward and say they had you do this. Because they should want who really killed Teresa to be punished for it. And I think, though, the more that time has passed, the more they feel locked into it, that we have to take this to our literal grave. Because what are people going to think of us? Please just do it. I don't care how many years it's been. It's the right thing to do. And the first one, come forward, cut a deal, be safe. You're not going to get prosecuted for it. You should want the true killer punished. And you shouldn't want, no matter what you think of Steven Avery, if you look at his past or you see, oh, look at these letters he wrote his first wife. It doesn't matter if Steven was a dick, now we know Steven didn't burn the cat, but even if he burned the cat, he didn't murder this girl, and he shouldn't be punished for that. You want to punish him for burning a cat, which he was punished for. So Scott Blodorn is the one that I think is the one that should be really pressed. I think that's the one that, if you're able to get any of them to talk, that would be the one. Jerry says, is Marnie's case known locally well? Perhaps a Sketty benefit dinner with a silent auction to raise funds? Yeah, Marnie's case is known well, but everybody thinks she's guilty. So that's tough with getting people to come support it because they think she's guilty. So we'll see after the press conference next week, because like I said, there's going to be a special guest at that, and maybe that will help change some opinions. But yes, spaghetti dinner is really easy to do. Oh, Maureen says also fish and chips and mushy peas. Fresh peas are so good, aren't they? Christy says, I wish I could see that part of Marnie because all I see now is guilty. I know. Christy, tell me, what is the biggest thing that you see on Marnie's case that you think guilty? And I will tell you what I think I can, and to show why that's not right or why she's innocent. I'm never sure what I can say, because it's still waiting to get to trial. But, fire that at me, Christy, and I'll see what I can do, if what I can tell you, if that will help you in any way. Christy says, or you can do a raffle, 50 spots, $2 a spot. Interesting. I like it. Cassandra says, completely agree, Jax. Maureen says, out of the two, Dean and Jerry, I think Dean believes in the boys more than Jerry, as he is friends with some of the prosecution, so I hear. I've talked about this before, and I've also talked to Jerry about it. Stephen hates him. Stephen says he told Jerry to do things and Jerry didn't do it. Like, Stephen says he told them from the get-go to get Bobby's computer. From the start, get that computer. And they didn't listen to him. Jerry didn't listen. So, God, Stephen hates Jerry. And he is so bothered that Jerry has now been on a tour since Making a Murderer came out and is making all this money off of Stephen. Stephen had to settle his big case and take a pittance of what he is owed to pay them. And to this day, Jerry is still making money off of Stephen's name, and Stephen sits in prison. I don't blame Stephen for being pissed off at that. Jerry's a really nice guy. I've talked with him on several occasions. I went and saw him when he did his book thing here in Chicago. And I had bought tickets to it, but then he gave me free tickets, which actually were better tickets. So I then moved up to the seats that Jerry gave me. And it turned out I was literally sitting right next to his wife and talked to his wife. She's a lovely woman. And then Jerry had me come backstage and I talked with Jerry back there. And he's very lovely to me. I think I told him, because he had come to one of Brendan's hearings in Chicago. And I think that's where I talked to him when I told him, because that's when I was talking to Stephen regularly too. And I'm like, Stephen hates you. He just really does, and blames Jerry for a lot. He believes Jerry is connected to prosecution. Yeah. So Gail says, is it not obstructing course of justice? You would think. Cassandra said, I recently watched the video of Scott B's interview where it looks like Teresa's spare key is on the counter, the key that was planted in Stephen's house. I know I don't think I've ever, well, I might have watched a video of it too, but there's also a still of that. And that's so what it looks like. Yeah, I agree, Cassandra. Karen says, I hadn't heard that Ryan H. was out of the country. Replying to Julie Matthews, how on earth did he end up with her day planner, which they know she had in her truck because of times in her notes. So Ryan H. ends up having it, plus supposedly figures out her passwords while he's in her apartment. Bad. Is Ryan Hillgoss out of the country? I thought he was still in Wisconsin, like the Green Bay area, and was a nurse there. That's what I thought anyway. And he changed his name. He's Ryan Hill on Facebook. Margaret says, I really think an auction will raise some money because everyone wants to win. Joyce says, I'd prefer a raggle. I don't know if that's a typo for raffle or if there's something called a raggle that I just don't know what it is. More than 50 spots, though. Well, something to think on. So now I'm down to the bottom of all your comments. And we've been at this with this one and the other one like 4 hours. So I think I'm going to end this here now. And leave it with you. You never know when we're going to pop into Manitowoc. Hi, Earl and Carla. Okay, raffle. Thanks, Joyce. But please, like put it in there for me. I know the last time Jeff and I went to, it's like, oh, we kept going a long way and it was way more driving than we had to. So if you guys are good at making an itinerary and go, these are the addresses and the spots that I should hit, send it my way. I am happy to have that. So I don't have to do that legwork other than now the driving around and possibly getting arrested. But also remember, I'm not going on Avery property. It has been expressed they don't want me there. I will only be going where it's public. So, and I know Earl tries to say that salvage sign is his property out there. Your salvage yard is a public business. That's not private property there. So if I want to stand out there by that sign, I can. There's nothing you can do about it. That's a highway. But I will not be going in the salvage yard or any of that. And, we'll drive past Barb's current house. That's being on the street. That's not me trespassing. I'm not going to go up to your door and try and get you to talk to me. Or if them and all their moles are here watching, if you want to meet up with me at a neutral spot and go live with me, let's talk. Carla, you want to come and hop on live with me and we can chat about everything that's happened? Bring it on. Let me scroll. Okay, so just people saying have a good night. So let's get that all ready because you don't know when Jeff and I will be there. We'll try out the new equipment he got. Maybe even if I'm not in Manitowoc, maybe we'll do some kind of live thing to test that out too before I go to Manitowoc. So you never know. And I'll also pop on live when we have a development in Marnie's case. And in Melissa's case, I know that there's been a hearing date set for her. So when something develops out of that too, I will let y'all know on Melissa. So, all right, I'm out. I'm going to lay on my couch and watch some TV and now eat my popcorn. So I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining me.